Let me show you how to make an onion, potato, and goat cheese frittata. Brown the onion first in olive oil. This is one white onion, sliced thinly, and render out the moisture from the onion. The potato, I'm using about 1/4 pound of fingerling potatoes. In Spain, they actually cook the potatoes first. They boil them or steam them, peeled, and then cut them into big chunks, and those are browned a little bit in olive oil with the big chunks of onion for a country tortilla. Now, it's very important to pre-cook your vegetables, whatever you're putting into your tortilla or frittata, to remove the excess moisture. So this is going to be mostly cooked in this pan. I'm using a 10-inch non-stick skillet, something that will go into the oven. I think that's cooked enough. And just remove this to a bowl and cook the potatoes, since these are raw potatoes. A little bit of olive oil, and I'm going to put a little bit of butter in for taste. 2 tablespoons. These little fingerlings actually cook very quickly. About 4 minutes it's going to take. Salt, pepper. And while these are cooking, break a dozen eggs into a pitcher. We're going to add a little bit of cream to this. I think I have 11. We need 1 more egg. 12, and 1/4 cup of heavy cream. Now whisk, but you don't want a lot of air to get into the eggs. You want to break all the yolks. So use a whisk lightly, but you don't want to have big batches of yolk and batches of white either. It's good. A few herbs would be nice, too. And it's nice to just chiffonade them if you want. Basil, flat leaf parsley. The leafy parts are better than the stems for something like this. Oh, these look done. I'm going to add the onions back to the pan. I think this looks good already. Isn't that pretty? Really nice. And we'll add our herbs. Again, you can choose to use thyme. Some are savory. That really smells good. Now, add a little salt to your eggs and a little bit more pepper. 1 last whisk. Adjust the heat so that it's on low. Pour your eggs over your vegetables. This is a very casual thing to make. And you can make frittatas for a crowd. Now raise your heat a little bit. Use your rubber scraper to pull the egg from the edge. So what you're trying to do is set the eggs in the pan, but without browning them. And that's going to take, anywhere from 2 to 3 minutes. So you see, if you use the rubber scraper to pull the egg from the side, the egg is moving in the pan, which is just what we want. And now it's time to put the goat cheese, push it down into the egg. This looks like it'll make 6 generous servings, so put 6 pieces of goat cheese, 1 per wedge, if you're going to cut this into a wedge. Looks very nice. And some grated Parmesan cheese. I love grating cheese like this and sprinkling. This adds another nice flavor to your frittata. And get this right into a preheated broiler for about 1.5 minutes. The frittata smells done. Let's just look. Yes, it is perfect. Golden brown, puffy, Doesn't that look fantastic? This is an incredibly versatile dish, and you can serve it cut up for an appetizer. You can serve it as a main course. Plus, it's not necessary to serve it right away. It's equally delicious warm or at room temperature. Now, this will loosen from the pan. Slide it out onto a serving platter like that. Now, I'm going to cut it because I want to taste it right now. And it cuts so nicely into wedges. Very nice texture, very nice color. It really makes a difference. A sprinkling of salt, and a little bit more pepper, and you have an utterly fantastic frittata. I like serving mushrooms in many, many different ways, and rolled up in buckwheat crepes, they are utterly delicious. For this particular recipe, we're going to use a half a cup of buckwheat flour with a half a cup of all-purpose flour. For the batter itself, use a blender, 1 1/3 cups of whole milk, 4 whole eggs. I add the liquid first and then the dry ingredients on top of the liquid. And the batter for crepes should be made 8 hours or more in advance. The day before is best. And with the 4 eggs, we're going to add some melted butter, 3 tablespoons, unsalted, some salt, 3/4 of a teaspoon, half a cup of buckwheat flour, and a half a cup of all-purpose flour. If you used all buckwheat flour, the crepes would be a little bit heavy. So now, blend this on low to start. Increase the speed a little bit. So that's it. Now, just decant into a measure like this. You can make about 24 to 30 beautiful crepes. Make sure you cover this and refrigerate. We have some that's already rested, and here it is. The consistency is like very heavy cream, and this is a 1 ounce metal ladle. I have some butter that's kind of at room temperature, but I find that brushing the pans really works very well. Now, first crepe, you put your ladle of batter and then just cover the entire bottom. And when you see little tiny bubbling holes throughout the crepe, it is ready to turn. So it really takes just a moment of practice and you'll become a crepe maker in your own right. Now that's a pretty crepe. You can see that just in a few minutes you will have lots and lots of crepes. So now I'm making the mushroom filling. 3 tablespoons of butter, a large shallot, and 2 big sprigs of fresh thyme. You can use dried thyme if you don't have the fresh. And what we're using today is chanterelle and cremini. This is a cremini mushroom, which is basically a variety of the white mushroom that we're so used to seeing in the grocery store. It is brown though and very tasty. And this is the beautiful chanterelle with the very delineated gills underneath the trumpet and the beautiful top. Up at my house in Maine on Mount Desert Island, we have lots of these in the autumn, especially if it's a rainy summer. So all of these mushrooms go into the butter and shallot mixture. 10 ounces of chanterelle, 10 ounces of cremini. And saute until the moisture starts exuding from the mushrooms themselves. But look how pretty and oh, so fragrant. And now right before they are done, add 1/4 cup of dry white wine. Now before you finish the recipe, you should put these in a bowl just to cool a little bit before we add the creme fraiche. 1/2 cup of creme fraiche just to enrich them. If you don't have creme fraiche, you can use sour cream. Add a little bit of black pepper, a little bit of salt, and you're ready to form your crepes. Take the prettiest side, and that'll be the outside. And be generous with the mushrooms, but not so generous that the crepe falls apart. And just fold these into triangles like that. So this can be done in advance of your party. And these are going to go right into a warm oven, 350 degrees, until they're warm through and a little tiny bit crispy around the edges. So the way I like to serve these crepes is with a fried egg. I like a little color around the edge of the white. And put the egg on your plate and 2 crepes and enjoy. These crepes will make an impressive addition to your buffet, whether it be for holiday or every day.
So we're gonna take a little salt and pepper. I like kosher salt.
So do I.
I like the feel of it in my
Yes.
hand.
Me too.
We're gonna whip them really,
I
really
like
nice,
the taste
Martha.
in my mouth.
Absolutely.
I like
it's
the
not
taste.
as salty.
No.
And we're gonna really whip them, okay? Just to get all the yolks and
But
the
you don't
whites.
use a whisk, use a fork.
Oh, use a absolutely easiest. Okay.
Now you're using a non-stick pan.
I like a non-stick pan. No surprises. No, bottom pieces sticking.
Okay.
And it calls for a tablespoon of butter. But I think I'm going to use a half.
I like a whole.
You do? Okay, you do it whole. It's non-stick, so you really don't have to worry.
Oh, true.
Okay. So we're gonna.
I have my old Rudolph Stanish omelet pan at home. Do you remember him?
Those.
That big, thick, sort
Black
of like
steel pan?
no, they're like Magnolite or something.
Wow.
yeah,
I don't know it.
best.
You'll have to lend it to me.
I will. You will love it.
So I'm going to go, Martha, right into the pan with the eggs. And the key
Okay.
to start it, I like to agitate the pan a little bit, so you kind of move it.
Agitate the pan.
Yeah,
How about
move the
eggs?
pan back and forth with the eggs and the spatula.
Oh, and
to
the spatula.
set it.
Oh, okay. Okay. So
And
what
the
you're
key
doing
for this omelet, Martha, with a French omelet is you don't want color on the bottom.
Never.
You want to set it just so that it forms, it stays on the bottom of the pan, and it forms
Yes.
a nice little crust. Okay.
How high is your flame?
My
High.
flame is like medium. How's yours?
Okay.
Yours is beautiful. Sometimes, if you like, you can just like tilt the pan a little bit like that.
Yeah, get some of that
yeah,
out.
and then
Okay.
and maybe push this in a little bit
okay.
like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fluffier.
they're very forgiving. I mean, you can really.
My favorite thing to eat when I'm like, if I go home and I'm alone at night or something, is an omelet. I mean, it's just the best thing,
I
right?
agree. Breakfast for dinner.
Yes.
Okay,
mine
what do
looks
you like
pretty
in
much
yours?
like yours.
Perfect.
Yep. Okay.
Perfect. What are you putting in yours?
Oh, I only like cheese.
Okay. Only cheese?
Yep.
I'm gonna do a little mushrooms.
Caviar,
Oh,
sour
that's
cream.
nice for a $1,000 omelet.
Yes. That's true
I like
these
a
days.
little goat cheese and a little mushrooms and maybe a touch of spinach.
That's spinach. I'll do spinach and cheese.
Okay. Perfect. I thought you said just cheese.
Well, now I changed my mind.
Okay, good.
You made me feel bad.
Okay. No, I don't want to make you feel bad.
Okay.
Okay. Another thing, Martha, is when you put the with ingredients kind of like in the middle.
Yeah.
Perfect, like you're doing. Why don't we walk to the broiler?
Oh, okay, we're gonna
I have
broil
a little
this?
trick here.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Excellent.
We're gonna open the broiler, and we're just gonna warm or melt the cheese for like 10 seconds.
One,
Just to-
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we warmed the ingredients, we melted the cheese, so the temperatures are kind of nice. Okay, and then I'm going to show you the flip and tuck, which is
Okay,
really,
that's
really
your
easy.
plate.
Okay. Excuse me. Perfect.
I carried
Okay.
mine with me.
You're much smarter than me. Okay, this is the flip, okay? Right across like that, okay? Really simple. Perfect. Now, we're gonna slide it right on the plate, kind of like that.
Oops.
Perfect.
It was perfect.
That's okay. It's very forgiving. Okay, great. And now we're gonna do the tuck. We're gonna tuck the bottoms.
Oh, you tuck it with your fingers.
Yeah, just like that.
Okay.
Okay? That's the flip and tuck. That's perfect.
Found all over France today, the Croque Monsieur, referred to simply as a croque, has countless recipes and many, many variations. The one that I'm going to show you how to make today incorporates a bechamel, a ham and cheese sandwich, and a little bit of fine herbe de Provence. Very easy to make and very delicious. So first melt a tablespoon of butter with 1.5 tablespoons of all-purpose flour. And we're going to make the bechamel first. It'll be ready. Cook the flour in the butter, just to get the raw flour taste away. And have 1 cup of whole milk simmering on the stove. That is your liquid for the bechamel. And a 1/2 cup of Gruyere. Add the boiling milk and stir or whisk. Use a whisk to get a nice smooth bechamel. As soon as this comes to a boil, it will thicken, and then you can add a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and some grated Gruyere cheese. And the flavoring for a bechamel is fresh nutmeg, freshly grated nutmeg. I love the flavor of nutmeg. So just a little bit. Wonderful. 1/2 cup of grated Gruyere. Use the best quality cheese you can find. For these Croque Monsieur, if you want a real authenticity, go to a good cheese store and get some really good cheese. So that's your bechamel. Okay, so now to compose the sandwiches themselves. I've very lightly toasted 8 slices of big fat baguette, and I will spread a little bit of mustard on the bread. Not too much, but just a little bit for flavor. And of course, you must use a French mustard. You want an authentic bistro menu, use a nice plain Dijon mustard. So there, so not too much. And put a little bit of beautiful ham on your sandwich. This is a prosciutto cotto, and this is the jambon royal. So I'm not going to mix the hams. I think they're so beautiful this way. And be generous with the ham. You want this to be a tasty sandwich. So each sandwich has about 1 ounce of good ham on it. And now some Gruyere cheese. This goes right on top of the ham. That's about 2 tablespoons on each sandwich. Basically a real fancy grilled cheese and ham sandwich. And topped with the other mustardy piece of toast. Real crunchy, real good. And now top each with some bechamel. About 1/4 cup of bechamel per sandwich. This is great brunch food. If you're going to have a brunch, make a big green salad and a Croque Monsieur. Just about right. Use your little spatula. Just spread it neatly over the top of the bread. No grilled cheese sandwich you've ever had tastes this good. A little bit more Gruyere cheese on top. Oh, and preheat your oven to 400 degrees. These are going to bake in the oven 15 minutes. Now, this is the herbe de Provence, just a little bit right on top. This little mixture, which you can buy anywhere in the south of France, is an assortment of dried herbs said to reflect those most commonly used in southern France. It contains basil, fennel seed, lavender, marjoram, rosemary, sage, summer savory, and thyme. You can use it for seasoning meats, but here we're just using that little tiny bit to be evocative of the south of France. So get this into your 400-degree oven. 15 minutes. Don't those look superb? And they smell really, really good. I want this one. Serve your Croque Monsieur with some cornichons. Those are the sour French gherkins, and a glass of dry white wine. This is certain to be devoured quickly. Enjoy. So how do you make scrambled eggs, Eric?
Well, how are we going to make them? So first you break your eggs, which is actually logical, right? Oh, look at that yolk, is beautiful. How do you get green eggs like
that's
that?
a kind of chicken.
Is it kind of
Yeah.
chicken?
And
And then
How many eggs?
3 eggs for 1
3.
person.
Oh, okay.
Like that. We're going to put the skillet on the fire, maybe a bit more flame.
What's
And
your
we're gonna-
favorite? What's your favorite? I hate to interrupt. You just keep cooking, but your favorite James Beard memory? Did you ever get to
It's
meet James
it's
Beard?
being on stage and winning.
Oh, okay.
That was really
good one, right?
I think between the 7 of you guys, we have something like, I don't know, 30 medals. This is extraordinary, 30.
Is that many, really?
Yeah, yeah, you guys have been really productive.
Oh, yeah. So, Martha,
Okay,
when
so-
I do the scrambled eggs, I always season with the salt and pepper on each yolk.
Oh,
It
okay.
gives me a good indication of what I need in terms of seasoning.
Oh, okay, how? How do you tell?
Well, you just put a little bit and you kind
Okay.
of like,
Visually,
I'm going to like it like that, yes.
Okay.
So then you whisk it. We're
That's
gonna
a
put
true chef talking. Ooh, how do we know?
Just a little bit, and then they go in a pan.
With
like
a
that.
tablespoon of butter.
With a tablespoon of butter.
And not too big a pan, I read, that you don't like too big a pan.
No, and you know, like in Europe, we like them a little bit runny.
Yes.
Not too much, but not too thick. We are going to add some chives. And they're going to give, of course, the flavor in it. And you see, with the whisk, I am able to make them like very loose. And
But you don't put milk or cream or
you're going to
water.
put at the very end because
at
they're
the
going to
end,
start
okay.
they're going to start to be. I'm trying to.
Yeah, there it goes, the fire.
Yeah, we're going to put it to high. So when they become very thick like that, a bit of heavy cream or milk or even
Okay.
butter if you wish, and that's going to stop the cooking. Make them, of course, better
Richer,
because cream
more
is
delicious.
always.
Look at the color.
Oh, the
Doesn't
color
that
is
look
because
good?
of the
So
quality
when
of
you
your
do
egg.
this, Eric, do you skip breakfast?
No, that's the middle of the night.
Okay. So you get home at 4 o'clock in the morning, so it is breakfast, huh?
What time do you typically get home?
Nowadays, with 2 little kids at home, I'm getting home. I'm in bed by 11
Oh,
o'clock.
good.
You see, it's almost like
Yeah.
like a polenta right
Oh,
now.
yeah.
That's it. That's going to be perfect in 1 second. You see the way they are becoming?
Oh, yes.
So I'm going to test to make sure it's good. Martha, they're very good.
Yes.
And then,
The chickens were thrilled to be laying for you.
well,
I told them yesterday, lay some good ones.
I'm so happy. I can see that.
We can have fun with that one.
And then a toast.
Oh, look how beautiful this is.
And we can, if you want a fork.
Look at that. Wouldn't you like that for your midnight snack or whatever? These are delicious waffles, and they're called Waffles Florentine. They're kind of a rich, cheesy, herby waffle, and it's served with hollandaise, poached egg, and spinach.
And spinach, yeah.
So what could be bad? So I'm going to make the wet ingredients, and you can do the dry ingredients. We're just
Okay.
going to sift them. But do you know how to make buttermilk at home? Do you know how to make your own buttermilk?
No, I don't.
Because buttermilk. So just take the milk,
Right.
and this is whole milk, and it's 3 cups, and just add the secret ingredient, about a quarter of a cup or a third of a cup of white vinegar, and just look. Already, it's fermenting. Do you see?
Right, sure.
And here we have buttermilk. Look, it's nice
Wow.
and thick. It makes a delicious, tasty buttermilk too.
Wow.
It's really just curdling.
It just curdles the milk, yeah, right.
So,
Wow.
so I'm going to add buttermilk into the wet. So 4 egg whites, 4 egg yolks, excuse me. Egg whites are going to be beaten separately. 3 cups of whole milk and the vinegar, and 1.5 cups of sour cream, and 10 tablespoons of melted butter. So I'll mix those up together, and you can do the flour. 2
Okay.
cups of flour. And
2 cups flour, and what do I add?
everything, add everything
add
it
everything
says
here.
there. Yeah.
Okay.
How much? How
It's a quarter cup of cornmeal
Okay.
and 2 tablespoons of baking soda
Okay.
and
Oh, good.
1.5.
Yeah,
1.5
don't throw all that salt in.
No, I won't.
No, somebody did. Somebody
one-
did once. They threw the whole thing of salt in. Not good.
So you want 1.5 teaspoons of salt, and a 1/2 teaspoon of pepper.
Yes. So that's
And this,
easy.
and this is for actually making the waffles, right?
Yep, this is all the batter for the waffles. So I'm adding the buttermilk now, which is nice, and it tastes good. You know, that little bit of acid of the vinegar, and then 10 tablespoons of melted butter. The recipe's on our website, but you will make this. You will all want to make this delicious batter. Okay, now I'm going to add this to that,
Okay.
and you can stir with the rubber scraper. Stir with the rubber scraper. I think it's better. And you don't have to over stir. And a few lumps are not bad. And we're going to add, as soon as you get that incorporated, we're going to add the cheeses. So we have goat cheese and we have grated Gruyere cheese.
Okay.
So I'll just sprinkle this in.
Beautiful.
So good. And the egg whites, I better give them a little bit more beating. And 3 ounces of goat cheese.
Beautiful.
Good, right?
Wow.
Yeah, don't do it too strong. And then add your egg whites. Don't you love? Do you have one of these KitchenAids at home?
I do, and we use it for everything.
Yeah, it's great, and especially with this. Oh, and you can add the herbs too.
Okay.
So how much parsley?
Half a cup of flat leaf parsley.
Yep, a whole batch.
Is this a whole half cup?
Yep. Yeah, just throw it all in.
And
You're fast.
2 tablespoons of tarragon.
This guy knows his way around the kitchen.
3 tablespoons of chives. Here we go.
Yes. Okay.
Wow,
and
that's a
then
lot of herbs.
I'm going to add this egg white a little at a time. Just now, very gentle.
Okay.
You just want this fluffy.
Okay.
And so you make this right before. You can do everything except the egg whites, and then add the egg whites at the last minute, so that the batter is very fluffy. Now, I forgot to mention. Do you have one of these waffle irons like this?
I do not
These
have one of those,
Nemcos.
but that's beautiful.
These are the best waffle irons.
Wow.
They cost a king's ransom, but they are definitely worth it because look, once you put the batter in, you can turn it that way.
Right.
And it cooks perfectly
Wow.
even. This is what they have at the diners.
Right.
And make sure, there it is, steaming hot, it's on high.
Yep.
And spray it with a tiny bit of vegetable spray. And then, that looks good. And now you can leave that in here because we're going to need that. So this is it's a heavy but light batter it's because it has so much stuff in it.
Right.
And it has to be just 1 scoop. If it's more in this particular waffle iron. So I'm going to put this here and spread it out. See how nicely that's cooking? Now you put that on like that. And you immediately turn it so that it goes on the other side of the iron. So
Right,
you're
sure.
going to have a beautiful crust. Ooh, smoky. I think they already sprayed this. And 1 more. And 7 minutes, exactly. Because we have tested this, so we have a perfect recipe. Now, if you don't have this kind of waffle iron, you can use the regular waffle irons that many of us do have, and that don't cost a king's ransom. But when I bought my house up in Maine, there were 4 of these in the house.
Really?
Yeah, so that's where I learned about it. Oh, 7 minutes, I have to set that. There it goes. And so we make waffles every single weekend.
Is that why you bought the house? Simply because these waffle irons were there?
Pretty much. We're going to start the poached eggs for our Easter waffles. The waffles are in the iron, and they're going to come out very shortly. But so you poach eggs, right, at home?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so there's 2 ways to poach eggs, or there's many more actually, because you can get those little poachers. And
Yep.
but generally, poached eggs are cooked in water.
Yep.
And just you don't want the water boiling too high.
No, you just want like a rolling boil.
Yeah, sort of a simmer. And so you can just do it boldly. The fresher the egg, the better, by the way. So you can just put the egg in the water like that and use a spoon just gently pull the egg white up over the yolk. So you want the yolk completely encased in egg white.
Right.
So that cooks for 3 or 4 minutes. But here's an easier way, I think. Here are 6 eggs, all broken into a bowl. I make sure, again, they're very, very fresh. They're
Yep.
day-old eggs. These came from my own chickens. Make a well in a deep pot that has lots of boiling water in it, and just pour the eggs right in. Look at that. And hopefully they will stay separate, and they will come out. Hopefully. So just keep them floating around in here.
And you have to keep the water spinning like that?
No, it'll slow down, but that keeps the eggs separate because they really are separate, even though they're in a bowl all together. So this one's looking very nice, though. Look,
Yeah.
this is very nicely done. And then these 4 minutes, and so now just leave them undisturbed. The spinach is cooked in a little bit of olive oil
Yeah.
with salt and pepper.
Yeah.
That's it. And then let's see our waffles are done. They are.
I think it's done.
I think you could open that one. Yes.
Look at that.
So look at this. Now you can lift it out. Now go like this. Do you know about that? When you take the waffles
cool it
out?
off? Yeah.
Well, no, it crisps up the outside, cools off both sides, so you don't put it right on a plate because then it gets kind of.
Right. Gets soggy.
got a little crumbs here. Put your waffle right here,
Okay.
right there. And now let's see our eggs.
That's just cheesy goodness in that waffle, isn't it?
Yeah. And so here we have our eggs beautifully cooking. Here we have, look at
Oh,
this.
that one came
See?
together, didn't it? Look at
Yep,
that.
you can just put it on. Oh, there, we were slightly early. You can turn that off. And then you can trim the eggs. So if you're doing eggs for like 40 people for breakfast, this is the best way to do it. Do you ever make breakfast for a lot of people?
No, I generally just make breakfast
Look.
for my family.
So look, you can make, poached eggs are just so nice this
Yeah,
way.
wow.
Really good. Where is the other one? There it is.
Look at that. That's a
Yep.
great trick.
It is a great trick. And then you can trim them. And this one too is ready to come out. So
Ooh,
yeah, he's learning from Joey Cola. Okay, so now here we go. And we have a hollandaise sauce right there. So we're gonna put a little bit of our wilted, delicious spinach on top of our waffle.
right. And tell me about this hollandaise sauce, Martha. How many egg yolks in the hollandaise sauce?
Very easy to make. I think that's a 2 egg yolk hollandaise with melted butter, lemon juice,
Right.
or vinegar. And now we'll get our poached egg. We'll just put that right on top. Don't put any little, this is a beautiful one. Oops, I need something to pick it up with. Where is my spoon? Oh, here it is. And you know what else you can do? If you make eggs for a big crowd, you can put this in iced water and then just reheat them right before.
Right,
That way
right.
you can have a whole lot of eggs. I don't want to break the yolk, whatever we do. Put that right on top. And a little salt and pepper. Doesn't this look good?
Yeah.
And you're going to like the waffle.
Wow, look at that.
You are definitely going to like the waffle. And here's the hollandaise. This is made in a blender. Yes, if you like a lot. He's very enamored of the audience. So that's for you.
That's beautiful.
This is for
Thank
me.
you.
And that is a wonderful Easter
Lovely.
Waffle Florentine. Why do I love buttermilk biscuits? Because they're light, they're flaky, they're eminently edible. They make great sandwiches, or they're just great with butter and jam. And herb flavored, well, these are so fantastic. And they are phenomenal with sausage or bacon. When I have people over for breakfast or brunch, I like to make biscuits. Biscuits with poached eggs and a little bit of hollandaise sauce is a really good breakfast. Buttermilk biscuits are easy to make, and this is the best recipe I have ever found. If you have a hard time finding buttermilk, and many of us do, I know in my little town I have to special order a quart of buttermilk. You can make your own at home, and the biscuits don't suffer one bit with homemade buttermilk. To 2 cups of whole milk, and this is a 2-cup measure, add about 1/4 of a cup of vinegar. You can use white vinegar, apple cider vinegar, and I have even used Japanese wine vinegar in a pinch. And just add 1/4 of a cup of vinegar. Pour that into the milk and watch what happens. By the time I finish our biscuits here, this will have turned, curdled into something resembling buttermilk. So exciting, I love it. So I'm gonna make half the batch with some herbs and half the batch plain. This recipe calls for 4 cups of all-purpose flour. All of our dry ingredients will be sifted together. Dip and level, that's what it's called. 4 teaspoons of baking powder. And again, I'm gonna stress in every single recipe, check for freshness. Make sure your baking powder is absolutely fresh. And because we're using buttermilk, we need to use a little bit of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1 tablespoon of sugar. And a heaping teaspoon of coarse salt. Kosher salt's really good. And just sift everything. There you have it. Very easy. Mix that up and put half of this into your food processor. This whole show is about the use of the food processor just to save you time. And now add your ice cold butter right into the food processor. This is the 2 sticks of butter that you've cut up into 1/4-inch squares and kept chilled in the fridge. There. So that's the simple process of cutting the butter into the flour using the food processor. Mix the other flour into the butter flour. Now add the buttermilk. It's thickened beautifully, and you can see the curds. You want your dough to be light and fluffy, moist, but not wet. You want it to be a very nice texture. So half of this I'm going to just put on the table in some flour, and the other half I'm going to add some of these chopped herbs. And I like dill a lot, so I'll put finely chopped dill, a little bit of rosemary, and a few chives. Altogether about 2 tablespoons in a half a recipe, so you could use 4 tablespoons in a full recipe. Smells really good now. Okay, so we're first going to roll out these, draw the dough together. Don't do a lot of kneading or manipulating. This is a very light touch biscuit. And roll this to about 1 inch. And I think I'll make rounds for these. So pretty. There, so that's 10 biscuits. Before you put these in the oven, brush the tops with a little bit of buttermilk. Boy, do those look good. Let's hope they rise and are as light and fluffy as they should be. These go into the 450-degree oven for about 8 to 10 minutes. And now the herb biscuits. The dough is beautiful, fragrant. I'll make these a little bit thicker. And we're going to cut these into squares. So I'll roll it into a rectangle. That is a gorgeous biscuit. I think they'd be great with bacon or sausage, a fried egg, some grits, and fried green tomatoes. And again, a little bit of buttermilk on top. Try not to get too much buttermilk down the sides, because if you do, it might stop the rising, the even rising of the dough. Look good? I think so. Oh, wow, look. You can see they're rising really nicely. We'll check them in another minute or so. These are the best buttermilk biscuits I have ever made. When I was catering, quiche was the most popular of all dishes asked for by my clients. And I know why, because it is a rich, savory custard filled with cheese, vegetables, meats, baked in a buttery pastry crust. This is pâte brisée. You'll need a half a recipe of pâte brisée to fill an 8-inch quiche pan like this. This is a removable bottom, and the reason for the removable bottom is that you take it out of the ring for serving. Quiche is a French term derived from the German word Kuchen, meaning cake, and it is baked. The crust should be pre-cooked because you don't want it soggy with the custard. This is chilled pâte brisée. If it gets too warm, it will start to break, and you don't want that. My producer asked me to bring in my favorite rolling pin. This I bought in Paris. I can't tell you how many years ago, but on my very first trip to Paris, I bought this particular mahogany rolling pin. I don't think they sell them in this weight and color any longer, but it is the best rolling pin. So perfect. Now to get it into the pan, An easy way to do that is to roll it on your pin like this, and then lift it up. You can pretty much move any pastry like this, and then unroll it onto the pan. Now, quiche and tarts should have a strong side crust. By taking the pastry and then just folding it down like that and pressing with my thumbs, like this. Once you form your crust, then put it back in the refrigerator to chill thoroughly before you then blind bake it. Blind baking doesn't mean that you're blind, it means that you are baking the crust without a filling. So there, that's a nice, thicker sided crust. Now just press that down like that. And you can do this with your thumb, like this, and go around and knock it off. Or you can just roll your pin like that across the top, and that just cuts the entire crust off like that. Very neat, very easy. Now this can be made into little tartlets. Don't throw it away. So chill this. Now this one has already been chilled and it's docked. It means that you are making little air holes to prevent kind of eruption while it's in the hot oven. Now line it with a piece of parchment, and if you want to make your parchment fit really well, just fold it like this. Just those lines help it fit better. And then fill it with pie weights. I'm using lentils. These are lentils that I have used for a long, long time, and this weights down the bottom and prevents the crust from erupting. And keep these. Cool them, put them back in the jar. I have some that are probably 20 to 30 years old, and they work just as well as when they're fresh. So it's 20 minutes at 400 degrees. Remove the paper and all the weights, and reduce the oven temperature to 375 and bake until the whole crust is a pale golden color. That'll take another 10 to 15 minutes. Now we're making the filling for the quiche. In a saucepan, 1.5 teaspoons of a good olive oil and 1/4 cup of white onion, diced. And we're gonna saute that until it's translucent. Quiche fillings can be pretty much anything, but today I'm using frozen peas. And you'll need 1/2 cup of heavy cream. So good. And 6 tablespoons of milk. And simmer this for 10 minutes. Next step, puree. I just pour the mixture right into a blender jar. The pureeing will cool the mixture a little bit, as well as change the color. And now this will be added to 2 eggs and 1 egg yolk. Make sure the mixture's not too hot so that the eggs don't curdle or cook prematurely. And this is ready to add to the pre-baked pastry shell. We have our shell here. See how nice the color is? It's just perfect. This is a well-baked shell. It has a gorgeous bottom. It lifts out. That's exactly how you want your quiche shell to be. And we have some ham and some peas to embellish the quiche itself. You can sprinkle 1/4 cup of peas. Add those to your quiche. And about a tablespoon of diced ham. Make sure you distribute it evenly. There. Okay, so get your quiche right into the preheated oven, 375, and bake until the center is set and the top is slightly puffed. That's going to take just 20 to 25 minutes. So now the quiche are out of their rings. How big a piece do you want? I want, about that big. The crust is crunchy and gorgeous. Dr. Seuss would be proud. This is the quintessential green eggs and ham. Enjoy. This is a baked egg. It's like coddled eggs, but you don't need a little coddler. How many of you in the audience have those little coddlers with the tops that screw on? Anybody? Oh, quite a few. Amazing. They're kind of, do you have those at home?
I don't.
Oh, you should say, yes, I do.
Yes,
of
I
course.
do. Of course, I do.
So here, very easy. Butter your little ramekins.
Okay.
These are called ramekins or custard cups. That's buttered already.
Okay.
And now we have to add 3 eggs without shells. Oh, wait a minute. A little bacon first. Just a little sprinkling of bacon down on the bottom.
We don't get to
And-
use a little hole puncher thing again?
No, you don't have to.
Okay.
Isn't that great?
I was kind of getting to like it.
Yeah, okay, next time. You can practice. The kitchen staff is waiting for you.
They were not
Waiting
impressed
for
back
you.
there.
Okay, so you make as many as you want. I mean, if you have 12 people over staying, you're not supposed to break the yolk.
Oh.
Okay, so that's nice. And we have to wipe up our counter.
Oh, I'm
Look,
so sorry about
look.
that.
You've got egg white
I'm gonna be asked
all
to
over
leave,
the
so-
counter. And now, can you pour the hot water in there into the pan without getting it into the custard cup?
Yes.
Yes.
I say that.
Yes. Yes, so pretty good so far.
Okay.
So about halfway up. Okay, and that way you're creating a steam bath, like a bain-marie they call it,
Yes.
Marie's bath. And then cover with either a piece of parchment and foil, or the newest, I invented this.
This is a Martha creation?
Yeah, it's called Martha Wrap. And I'm not kidding, this really is Martha Wrap, and it is in selected stores everywhere.
That is so smart.
Yeah, and so it's parchment, so your food never touches the aluminum foil. We've been waiting for this. And that's not a commercial, but look, it actually crimps. But it's hard to get aluminum foil to crimp if you have parchment. But we figured out
found
a
a
way.
way.
Yes. So that goes into a 375-degree oven for 20 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, make believe it's in the
Leave
oven.
it there, yeah.
It comes out, and this is what it looks like. See, partially cooked. See,
yes.
almost cooked, but not quite. So what do you want on yours? You can have Gruyere, chives, parsley, or goat
Let's
cheese.
do a little of everything.
Okay,
Is that
that's
crazy?
your 2.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to do one. My friend Joe wants just Gruyere and chives, he said.
Okay.
And you want everything. And I want Gruyere, goat cheese. Look how pretty, isn't it beautiful? And then this gets covered again and back into the oven for another 10 minutes.
And what did you call these little bowls?
Ramekins or
Ramekins.
custard cups. Here,
Okay.
let me see. Here's a towel for you.
Thank you.
Okay. And then this goes right back over, and get that right back into your hot oven. So here's your beautiful
This
coddled
is it?
egg.
Finished product?
It's there. It's yours with goat cheese and parsley.
This is lovely.
And that's what it looks like with a nice piece of pansegla from Balthazar. You don't have to be a southerner, I found out, to enjoy grits. Now becoming more popular around the country and in top restaurants, this southern staple is enjoyed in numerous forms. Today, we have a very simple recipe that features smooth, creamy grits topped with broiled tomatoes and bubbling cheddar cheese, and if you like, some crispy bacon. And I'm just slicing 2 tomatoes. I'm making 6 ramekins with this recipe, 6 individual servings. And these tomatoes, I'm going to just put under the broiler to get cooked. I love broiled tomatoes, and make them even tastier by putting a little bit of pepper on top, a little bit of salt, and a drizzle of olive oil. Just a teeny, teeny bit of olive oil. And these will cook slowly under a hot broiler. Now, in this skillet, 2 thick slices of bacon, just cut into little 1/2-inch squares. They'll cook and get crispy. Cooking grits is really easy. Grits are simply dried corn or hominy, a type of corn treated with an alkali and coarsely ground. This actually is a rather fine coarseness, and this is white corn. White corn and yellow corn have negligible differences in sweetness and nutritional content, but white is generally favored in the South. When cooking grits, make sure your water is really boiling and use a whisk. Pour the grits in slowly, gradually, and keep stirring so that you don't have any lumps. So 1 cup of grits to 4 cups of boiling water. And keep an eye on the heat. If the pot gets too hot, the grits will burn, and that is not what we want. Now just sprinkle this in and stir. I have watched lots of people make grits, and it's very easy to do. Grits like this will take about 5 minutes. Gradually thickens. Now you can use crumbled bacon, and crumbled bacon is thin slices of bacon cooked, and then you can crumble those. But if the bacon is thickly sliced like this bacon, it's a little hard to crumble it. And don't buy pre-cooked bacon bits. There is no reason to do that. Fresh grits will last several months in your pantry if you keep them in the freezer in a tightly sealed bag. I keep them actually in quart plastic containers. To the grits, you're going to add 2 tablespoons of butter, 2 generous tablespoons. And then to make these cheesy grits, add 1.5 cups of grated cheddar. Now, as you add the cheddar, use a wooden spoon, not the whisk, because the whisk will get all stuck. And stir this. It'll melt right into those grits, making them very, very cheesy. Now, I had added no salt, no pepper, so right now I'm going to add a goodly sprinkling of salt and a smaller sprinkling of pepper. There's the tomatoes. They've just gotten a little bit of color around the edge. Those are going to go on top of the grits. And the grits with the cheese and the butter can sit for a little while. If you want to keep it longer than half an hour or so, I would put that in a bain-marie of hot water so that they will stay warm. So here is our bacon. Just drain it on a piece of paper towel, a brown paper bag. And now it's time to fill buttered ramekins. Butter because you don't want the grits to stick. And you also add a little bit more flavor to the grits. Okay, I think those are nicely buttered. And spoon in your grits. They look good. Now grits like this can be served for breakfast. You could put a little pile of grits on a plate and put a fried egg on top and a piece of country ham. That'd be good. Or you can make it a little fancier, as I'm doing, in a ramekin, and this can be served not only for breakfast, but also for lunch. I really got to know a little bit more about grits when I visited my friend Sally down in Tennessee, and she took me to several wonderful stone mills that ground their own grits. It was just amazing to see corn being transformed from the kernel into a grain like this. So just clean up the edges a little bit and put your sliced tomatoes right on top. One has to be vegetarian. Actually, I'll make 2 vegetarian, and the rest can have a sprinkling of this delicious smoky bacon. These look really good. Then grate a little bit more cheese. This is the white cheddar. And sprinkle on top of the tomatoes. Just a half a cup or so. And these will go back under the broiler for approximately 2 minutes. Watch them carefully. This is oven-proof ware, the dishes themselves, but you don't want anything to happen to them under a hot broiler. I think these look good. And just a little bit of pepper. I love pepper. Cheddar's salty enough so you don't have to add any more salt. So, under the broiler for 2 minutes. I hope you'll try this recipe. They're ready. Bubbling, very hot. Oh my gosh, these look great. Spectacular. Now let them cool a little bit before you try to move them. But these are ready to eat in the next 5 minutes.